Welcome to Financial Planning Explained. I'm your host, Mike Menninger, certified financial planner, owner and founder of Menninger and Associates Financial Planning. I'm pleased to have as my guest today, Rachael Packer, who is a senior living specialist for senior living specialists. Rachael, thank you very much for joining me
Thanks for
today.
having me. I'm happy to be here.
Good. This is a very important topic that we don't encounter every day, but we encounter often enough in our field. But I think this is something that's near and dear to the hearts of everyone knows someone who either needs to go into some type of senior living or is in that situation. And we're seeing it more and more and more, and it's becoming more prevalent. And that's why I think this is perfect to have you on today. So thank you again for joining me.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
Yes, so I'm a senior living specialist. My expertise is helping families and individuals create a plan for if and when their loved ones need to transition into independent assisted memory care.
Okay.
We talk about people aging every day. We talk about what it is to age with a plan, what it is to age safely, and what it is to either age with resources at home or in a community. We are a 5-woman-run company, and we are local to the Philadelphia area. So we work with the communities. I would say in Philadelphia, the 6 counties surrounding Philadelphia. We can do South Jersey, Northern Delaware, and go up through Harrisburg and Lancaster. So we have a pretty decent span of communities that we work with.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the company. And you work with people. Do you work with the children? Do you work with the actual people who need to go in, or all of the above?
Yeah. All of the above, right? So people come to us at different ages and stages in this journey, right? So I would say 95% of the people that I work with are the children of the aging loved one, or the niece or nephew of the aging aunt or uncle, right? So that's typically the people who are calling us saying, hey, I'm concerned about mom or dad, or hey, mom and dad are in rehab, they had a fall, it's not safe for them to go home any longer, we need a transition plan. So it's typically speaking to the children of the aging loved one.
So you referenced there's 5 women who work for your company.
Mm-hmm.
Do they all do the same thing, or do each of them have a different niche that...
Yep. So we all do the same thing. We're not territorial. We all are kind of in or around the Montgomery County, Bucks County area, but we really, however clients come into us, we support them where they are. Of the 5 women that I work with, we're also all certified dementia practitioner trainers. We have certified dementia practitioner, which means that we have gone through training to really understand the depth and breadth of dementia and how to support loved ones and people going through a dementia diagnosis.
Well, you know what? I know you had told me about that, and you were going to have a time that you were going to explain it to our staff.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you give me the preamble to it?
Yeah, so there's 2 things. So my team is certified dementia practitioners, but I'm also a part of an organization in Montgomery County called Dementia Friendly. And that organization is outside of senior living specialists, but it supports the work in which we do within the community. And it's really about making Montgomery County a more dementia-friendly county. So it's really about educating businesses and people in the community about what is dementia. And, it's not this taboo disease, right? And if you're seeing people who might be out there struggling or might need resources, where to point them to those resources to really get the help and care that they need.
So dementia is actually the symptom. Can you explain the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's?
Yeah.
Because I think of them interchangeably, and people use them interchangeably.
Mm-hmm. So without getting too technical, because I'm obviously not a medical professional, but dementia is the umbrella, right? So the word dementia is the umbrella. And then within the word dementia, there's different types of dementia diseases. For instance, Alzheimer's being one of them, vascular dementia being one of them, Lewy bodies dementia being one of them, right? So there's many different shapes and sizes and forms of dementia itself. How it's characterized is done through a neurologist.
So what exactly is dementia? I think of dementia as being forgetful, and what exactly entails dementia?
It's a brain disease.
It's a disease.
Yeah.
And I know it's one of those things that they're trying to figure out ways to cure it, prevent it, or whatever the case may be. And
right now there isn't one.
That we know of.
That we know of. But there's a lot of work being done.
Yes. And I think that's something that obviously would be, because it's sad to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And dementia takes on different characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
Some are memory failure or memory care or something they need. Others, people's personality changes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're experiencing that.
Mm-hmm.
What other, how does dementia rear its head?
You know, it really, you know, by the time I would say that people are coming to us looking for a plan to care for their loved one who have dementia, they're like the average of their saying is that people have already been dealing with this on their own for about 5 to 10 years, right? Because there are early signs of dementia, right? When you don't really know what's going on, right? Like there's generalized forgetfulness, right, as we age, right? And then there is legit I'm forgetting things that I should know, right? And in the beginning, I think people will be like, "Oh, grandma's just forgetful," or this or that, right? Or oh, well, today grandpa decided to go for a walk and didn't know how to get back, right? So there are specific signs of things that start to really rear their head, right? And it, like, early detection is better than not. And that's why when we were sitting talking before this, I was just kind of saying that, like, if you're questioning it, something's probably happening.
Right.
Is it full blown? Maybe not, right? Things can start out in very infancy stages, but if you're concerned and questioning it, it's probably worth having a conversation with that loved one's PCP, right? You want to start with their doctor.
Right. Right. Well, that's interesting you say that, because I remember recently when I had referred somebody, you had made a comment to me that if they're asking about it very seriously, it's probably too late, or maybe too late, shall I say, not probably.
I would say, unfortunately, we work in a lot of crisis mode with people, right? So unfortunately, there's a lot of digging your heels into the ground and not wanting to do something until, I would say, the wheels are starting to fall off the bus, or the roof is on fire.
Right.
And then they're saying, okay, now we need to make a plan. Now we need to figure out where to go. And my biggest piece of advice, you know, even when I'm talking with financial advisors or just everyday people, to get in front of people is, again, if you're starting to question something, come to me, someone like myself, a senior living specialist, sooner than later, because you don't need to use that information right that second to act on it, but at least you know what are your resources. And it might not be moving into a community right away, right? It might be, hey, I need a dementia support group, right? Hey, I need to know what questions to ask my PCP. Hey, I need to know a neurologist that I could maybe work with, right? To get into, because I want to get some more information. It can be the basics, right? While we're doing that, okay, let's figure out, where are you in this journey? What does home look like? What does home feel like? Also, what are your, like, thresholds, right? What are your, like, break even points where if this happens, you know X needs to happen?
Financially or medically, you mean?
Both.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So, you know, is it, hey, I'm going to bring in home care for a period of time because I still want to keep them home for as long as possible? Great. We partner with home care companies. We vetted people. You don't need to go on a wild goose chase and try to figure out
who's the right person and stuff like that, right?
We have some great ones that we work with. But while we're doing that, I would say, hey, let's also know what communities can be at your service for if and when we need to move in there. So you know where they are location wise, how much they cost financially, what care they provide, right? Because not every community provides the same level of care. It's not comparing apples to apples, or I wouldn't have a job probably, right? It's a lot more than that. But it's really about figuring out the intricacies of your support, knowing what it is before you actually really need it.
Well, yeah, and I see that there's a whole lot of planning that goes involved. And one of the things that I've noticed is, you referenced digging your heels in. Nobody wants to go to a nursing home. It has had such a mantra and aura surrounding it that my kids are going to send me to this place where old people are to die. And you just think of, and I've been in one before where you walk in and it's a room full of people sitting in a wheelchair. And that's the mental image, and the mental image of what happens. And then I could see how drop off mom or dad or whatever to there, and now I don't have to deal with it. And they're feeling like, you're dropping me here to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that. And whether it's right or wrong, I can also see how they don't want to go there.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I get to start with this. So I don't actually work in nursing home space, right? I work in assisted living, personal care space, independent living, memory care, right? So
Okay.
all the communities I work in are in the state of Pennsylvania, are private pay communities,
Okay.
right? So you go into a community, you are going to have your own apartment with your own door, okay? That apartment's also going to have its own heating and air conditioning system, right? So you are moving into an apartment, right? And then people move into senior living for many different facets, right? And a lot of the times when we're talking about moving someone, right, their home is what they've known for 40, 50 years,
Oh my
maybe,
goodness,
right?
yeah.
And any type of move like that is monumental. Any type of move is like that is monumental. But it's really breaking it down and looking at your loved one and saying, I love you, but I'm worried. Instead of like putting it on them, you put it on yourself, right? So it's like, how do you open up this conversation? To open it up with a place of compassion, right? That's what we try to talk to people. Like, how do you start the conversation? I love you, but I'm scared. I love you, but I'm worried, right? And just talk about it. And then also, we kind of pick out 3 key terms to talk to people's loved one about the moving process, because a lot of people think they're independent in their own home, right? Well, if you're not leaving your home and you don't drive anymore, is that independence? Right? So, and you ask that, right? They think they are the happiest in their home, but if you don't leave your home, no one comes to visit you, and you're talking to your dog all day, are you really that happy? Right? People think they're the safest in their home. Well, if you can't do steps anymore, you don't have a bathroom on the first floor, a full bathroom, I'm talking, shower, whatever. Are you really safe in your own home anymore? So when you pose those open-ended questions to people, it really does start to get them to think. Where can I really be the most independent? Where can I be happier? Where can I be the safest? And unfortunately, sometimes it's not home. Unfortunately, it is in a community, right? Because most of the work, I would say, I'm moving people into assisted living, memory care, right? Mm-hmm. Because people stay at home as long as they possibly can these days, right? People are aging in place as long as they possibly can, and we support that, right? We're about health and safety at the end of the day. But you move into these communities, and there's a beauty to it. There's community, there's connection, there's activities, there's 3 meals a day that you don't have to cook, or you don't need to wonder where it's coming from. You're not eating processed junk all the time, right? You don't have to worry about going to the grocery store or figuring out how to, Uber Eats it or Instacart it. That's, 70 and 80-year-olds, that's overwhelming to them, right? So moving into a community is really about preserving someone's health and safety and increasing their happiness.
Right. You know what? That's really good. We're actually almost up at a break. What we'll do is we'll pick up, because I'd like to know a little bit more about the different types of communities. You referenced assisted living, and it's making my head turn to different things that I've seen before, where some of them are very independent, some of them are less independent or assisted, or whatever the case may be. So I'd like to pick up on that when we come back. So stay tuned. We'll be back with you in just a few moments.
Do you keep up regularly with your investments? Where exactly are your hard-earned dollars going? Are you financially prepared for an emergency?
I'm Mike Menninger, founder of Menninger and Associates Financial Planning. We believe that education and knowledge are powerful, and we want our clients to understand why we are making the recommendations that we make. It's your money, and you deserve to know where it's going, because it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So call us today to discuss your financial concerns. Welcome back to Financial Planning Explained. We're going to pick this back up with Rachael again, where we left off at the end of the first segment, talking about, moving into an independent type of living facility. What I'd like to do is break this down a little bit more, because I have mental images of almost different types of living. I mean, we happen to be located real close to Shenandoah, which is remind me, I was there once. I thought I was walking on the Titanic with the staircase and the chandelier and everything else like that. I was like, holy smokes, I'm on a cruise ship. And I've seen Peter Becker, which is almost like your own little townhome if you will, single story townhome. And so I've seen a lot of different ones. You got independent living, you got assisted living, and nursing care, which nursing or skilled or full nursing care is the closest thing to almost a hospital room, if I remember correctly, because I've seen someone there as well. Could you fill me in a little bit more, fill in the viewers, exactly what each of them entails? And then I think you referenced also during break that you were talking about the continuing care communities. So let's talk about what is exactly independent living and then assisted living. Go through the different cycles.
Okay, so independent living, you're moving into a community independently. You need no help. You're still independent, right? So you're going in because you're just going to say like the house is too much. You don't want to do the yard anymore, but you're also like looking for a community of people that are your age, that are your interests, and you want to be around people, right? So you move in there and you're moving into an apartment. And that apartment is going to, include your amenities, your housekeeping, and independent living. You're going to typically you'll have a full kitchen in there, but you're also going to have the benefit of being able to have meals in the dining room as well, right? So that's independent living. You need no help. You're walking in.
Right, your own apartment basically. And I've seen various levels of that. I've seen an apartment is basically a 2,000 square foot flat. Okay, it's like, wow, this is pretty big. It's not what I was thinking of. And then I've seen others that are basically like a 1-bedroom apartment. And I suppose that, depends on how much you're willing to pay. But if it's independent, then you're right. They're on their own. They do what they want. But then there's also assisted living. And I've seen folks in assisted living that someone stops in a couple times a day or something like that to fill.
So then you have assisted living, right? And independent and assisted living can be on the same campus in communities. So assisted living can be as basic as med management. So somebody needs help with with organizing their meds, reminding to take their meds. And it can go up to somebody who needs total help, which we would call total help with their ADLs, adult daily living activities. And that could be showering, bathing, grooming, dressing, transferring, you name it, right? So assisted living really has a long gamut of what it can help support somebody inside that box.
Right. Okay. So a lot of communities, you can actually go from independent to assisted. You just move to a different spot, or do you stay in your same place and now somebody comes to your room every day, or your apartment or whatever?
Every community is different. Some communities have this built-in ability to what they bring in, like 15-minute increments help, right? So you're still living independently, but they have, like, there's a community down the road, they have these things called senior helpers, where you can come in and you can pay for someone to come in for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, right? So you can still be independent, but you might need help with X, Y, and Z, right? But depending on the community and depending on the type of care you need, how the care increases, you may have to move from independent to the assisted part of the community to get the help that you need.
Is that because the community has all of their independent over there and the assisted over here?
To a degree.
Okay, but that varies from one community to another.
Yeah, every community is different.
And is there anything between assisted living and skilled nursing?
Well, so then you have independent assisted living, and then you would have memory care, right?
Okay.
Memory care, I would say is its own entity in a sense, but most communities you'll see independent assisted, and they have a memory care option. There are also
I hear that a lot.
There are also memory care only communities as well. Memory care, again, is for individuals with dementia, whatever form of dementia it may be. And memory care comes into play when a person's mild cognitive impairment, dementia has progressed, right? And they are no longer safe being on their own. They need a lot of cueing, reminding, redirecting, right? If you're a risk to wonder, you're going to probably be a memory care candidate. Again, no matter where you go into an assisted living or memory care community, they're going to do assessments. And these assessments are going to, be based off of a series of questions, and it's going to dictate, can you safely live in assisted living? Can you, if you're on that cusp of having memory care, a memory care diagnosis, some people can go into assisted living, fine, right? But many people have to go into memory care, right? But that's all done through an assessment through the communities.
Yeah, I think of memory care, and that's like the dementia, and that can be, and I've seen dementia a little bit, and I've seen it pretty bad, and and we're working with a couple who the one spouse is really suffering from the memory care, but otherwise, but see, the problem with the memory issues and dementia is you're not taking care of yourself. Not to mention, you just think about, okay, I'm forgetful. That's one thing, but not being able to almost function is a much further along, and that really creates a problem for everyone.
Yeah, so let's dig into that a little bit. So a lot of families I'll work with or couples I work with will have one who's healthy and then one of them who has dementia.
Right, that's usually the case.
Right. And there's a lot of decisions to be made in that, right? Because a few things come to mind. Caretaker, like one of our main concerns is the caretaker, right? Because you want to make sure that the caretaker is protected through health and finances, right? Because they take on a lot of the stressors of caretaking for the person with dementia.
Right.
Right. And again, like I said earlier, they're doing this already almost 5 to 7 years before they come to me. So they're burnt.
Right.
They're tired, and they're really trying to figure out what their resources are, support within the home, or if they move their loved one into a memory care community. So a lot of the things that, before we even really start to discuss communities, it's really about, hey, do you have all your ducks in a row? Have you talked to an elder care attorney? Do you have all your POAs established? Have you talked to your financial advisor? Like, what do your finances look like? Like, how can you still support yourself, right? But then if and when it's time to move your loved one into a community, what the finances look to support that as well. Because in the state of Pennsylvania, it is all private pay dollars. Medicare covers medical.
Medicare, because a lot of people get confused between Medicare and Medicaid.
Right. So Medicare covers your medical needs.
Only if you're expected to recover. Correct? I believe that's what it is.
Yeah. But in the state of Pennsylvania, private pay communities, so people, if you were to run out of money, they do not take Medicaid. Okay. So when we're talking to couples and we're looking about one needing to either move into assisted living or memory care and one wants to stay in their home, it's really important, like, for instance, for them to work with an individual like Mike to know what your finances look like. What are your thresholds? What can you afford? What does that look like over time as well?
Yes, exactly. And it's a big concern for a lot of people because it's not cheap. For someone to go to a memory care unit, you're talking what, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month, right? Mm-hmm. And that's $100,000 a year. And not a lot of people have that ability to put that kind of money out for an extended period of time. And if someone's suffering just from memory care, that could last quite a few years. Mm-hmm. Is there an average?
It's all different.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing I can say is your mind fails you before your body does in most cases.
Yes. And I guess there are some things where all of a sudden your mind is not telling your kidneys to work, or your mind is not telling your liver to work, and that's when your body begins to fail. Mm-hmm. But that's not the same.
Right.
So, that's the concern that a lot of people have. Not to mention, if one is suffering from it and the other one isn't, if they end up having to go into some type of memory care facility, does that separate the spouses?
Yeah, it does. Because if you don't have a memory care diagnosis, you're not moving into a memory care community with your spouse. Right. So what are options, right? Your options are you stay in the home that you're in. You sell the home that you're in. You move into the assisted living side while your spouse is in the memory care side, so you're in the same community. Right? Or option C, you sell your home, you downsize into another smaller apartment while your loved one is in the memory care community, right? So it's not a clear path, right? Like it really is specific to each person that we work with, right? And what they can take on and what they can handle and what they can afford.
Yeah, and that's a very, very tricky thing to do from both the financial perspective, because it is very difficult for the seniors to understand that. It's very difficult for the children to understand that. And even for us as financial advisors, we really rely on the legal community to be able to provide, and there are certainly attorneys out there who specialize in elder care because there's a lot of tricks, if that's the right word, methodologies, things that could or should be done. But like with most things, you need to plan for it in advance. Because the one thing people's like, oh, no big deal, I run out of money, Medicaid picks it up. Well, not so fast. And that's just such a quick misnomer, because Medicaid is not just, oh, you know what, the state will pay for it. Medicaid basically means it's the welfare system for medical, which means if you're on welfare, that means you're out of money. Is that a position that you ever want to be in? The answer to that is a very resounding no. And if you have one spouse who ends up going on Medicaid and it drains the other spouse, that's the big planning problem from the financial side, not to mention separating the spouses. So we're going to take this to another episode, because we'd like to go through a lot of different other examples of situations that I've encountered, that you've encountered, because the whole idea of what we're trying to do is just to create an educational experience for you, the viewer, because everyone knows someone who is encountering this if they're not encountering it themselves. So, willing to stick around for another one?
I am.
All right, terrific. So we're going to have another episode coming up. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Financial Planning Explained. Have a wonderful day.